I think you guys are gonna love this conversation. We talk about understanding the economics of the business, how to scale up, especially when you have a setup fee and then also a monthly recurring revenue model. The quick way to network your way into other investors. I think there's a little nugget. If you're listening really well, you're gonna get that. And then also how to hire talent, especially technical talent, and some of my rules around identifying them, ensuring that they're capable, the power of 10x, especially in the technical role, how we compensate them, especially if you're gonna build a venture-backed company with equity and salary ranges, trying to weed through the crazies and the folks that are totally out to lunch on compensation expectations, and then really just talked about the way that you want to build a team, manage that team, and communicate with them to continue building a high-performing team. I think you're going to love it. Chris is an incredible person, great entrepreneur, has been crushing, doing this forever. He even shares to me where he has a private tattoo of his company logo, so you're going to want to watch this episode. So Chris, from Toronto?
From Toronto.
Cool. What's the business?
What is the
business?
Are we going?
Oh, you can't look at the camera.
I didn't realize we're actually
shooting.
All right,
Jared, we got to keep this in
I'm
here.
gonna start in. All right.
Yeah, so what's the business?
So the business, okay, so you're not a corporate guy. Did you start in corporate?
Dude, I'm so corporate. I appreciate that we're gonna go there a little bit just so I can flex my corporate chops a little bit.
All right.
I feel like I've been tarnished the startup guy. And no, I built an enterprise consulting company, selling the Fortune 500.
Right.
Yeah, so I love talking about statements of works and
Perfect.
Gantt charts and all that fun stuff.
So perfect. So you know the consulting space.
Very well.
All right. So that's the space we play in.
Cool.
So
company name's called
Actionable.
Yep.
Actionable.co. And
Yep.
so what we do is we make learning programs, on-site learning programs,
Uh-huh.
sticky and measurable from a behavior change.
So this is
standpoint.
interesting. So because we talked about this, I had a founders lunch today with the founders of carnivoreclub.com. There was another one from precisionnutrition.com.
All right.
And Catherine she has a SaaS business as well. It's super neat. But the topic was around this.
Okay.
If I think this is correct. This is, how do you capture and train your leaders and best practice? Like, is that?
Yeah, how do you show that it's working? Because there's great consultants out there doing really great work.
Cool. They'll come into your company, teach you stuff, but how does that stuff get disseminated across the organization?
Yeah.
Super neat. Oh, hence the name. So clever.
Thank you. Yes.
There we go. I
Good.
like this. Okay, cool. So let's deconstruct the product itself and how you guys deliver on that value proposition.
Sure. So lightweight software. It's mostly based on text messaging. It's sold through the consultants that we work with. So we recruit consultants, then they integrate Actionable into their offering, and then they bring it to their clients.
Now, are they already selling their own curriculum and they're just using? Okay, cool. So you don't have to give them any.
No, they're well established. They do a couple mil usually.
What other do? Management consulting, leadership training, et cetera.
Communication skills, sales skills,
all that
those things.
stuff.
Yeah,
I'm falling, catch me, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. No,
trust
not
exercises.
No, we're not saying
not
Kumbaya.
trust exercises.
No,
No, too much. All right, the real shit that drives ROI.
Yeah.
No, I mean.
But how do you prove that?
Yeah. Okay, so then let's talk. I want to understand why you started this business.
Yeah.
In 30 seconds ish.
I was a sales rep and sales manager early in life.
And just so you know, I know we've talked before, and I'll ask you questions that I know the answers to. Yeah. Okay, so don't be like, Dan's a fucking idiot and he doesn't remember everything from our previous conversations. But I think it would be helpful for.
You know a lot of the Cutco guys that I grew up with.
Okay.
Like John Rulin,
yeah.
Hal Elrod.
Is that where
John
he came
Burgott.
from,
Yeah.
Cutco?
Yeah.
Okay, I was wondering why he keeps sending me Cutco knives.
That's why. So.
Do you think he's still getting a kickback on all those Cutco? Because that would be the
ultimate. He sells like $1 million a year in Cutco knives.
So would it be safe to say that he's making a Cutco commission on the sales of the Cutco knives?
He's making a healthy margin
That's
on it.
awesome.
Absolutely.
What a great. Now it all makes sense.
That's the basis of his gifting business. Yeah.
Oh,
starting
snap.
Point. Yeah.
That's cool.
I know. So that's what I did.
So good. Okay.
And I fell in love. I wasn't a particularly good recruiter, which is most of that business.
Yeah.
But I was really good at retaining the people that I recruited.
Got it.
And I became somewhat obsessed with how do you retain top talent, particularly in a commission-based environment.
Yeah, because they can go do their own thing.
Totally.
Blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
And they're kids selling knives.
Yeah.
Like there's not a natural attraction there, right?
Yeah.
Not normally.
Yeah.
And so so I fell in love with that. And so when I left that world, I really dug into what it was that led to retention of top people. Sort of geeked out on that. I spent 2008 reading about 100 business books, and where the business started was actually.
You read 2008. You would say in your trajectory that was I'm gonna learn.
Yeah.
What did you read?
I read everything from
Good to great.
Yeah. That was one
All
of the
the
first ones.
classics.
Totally.
Yeah.
And,
It's
and
like in
then
the top
beyond, right?
25
Yeah.
for sure.
So I started actionable books to share some of the ideas from those popular books for busy
Neato.
people. So that was the
Okay.
starting point.
Was that like a CEO read type thing, like a synopsis?
Yeah.
Awesome. So
Yeah.
Blinkist today would be the digital
Yeah,
version of
exactly.
that? Cool, that's
yeah.
super
So
neat.
I'm incredibly in awe of what Blinkist did from a scale and growth
execution
standpoint.
and
Totally.
scale.
Yeah. Because it was never a revenue generator for us.
No.
But it got me into the space of interacting with a lot of these thought leaders.
Authors,
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So I
dude.
read 2008, I interviewed 2009, traveled around the US,
Yeah.
interviewing Seth Godin, Patrick Lencioni, these types of individuals.
Dude,
And that was amazing. Yeah.
I'm jealous. That's super cool.
I'm sure they would take your call, Dan.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
I'll have to reach out.
Totally. And then I started a little consulting practice off the heels of that. People wanted to apply what I was reading.
Yeah.
And so I built up this little consulting practice, realized that from my standpoint, one of the biggest challenges was you could go do incredible work, but then you'd leave and you have to go hustle to find the next gig. You wouldn't know what sort of impact you had. They didn't know the direct impact you'd had. And so I built this, and I'm not a coder, but I cobbled together a team to build this lightweight software that allowed us to track the behavior.
We live in a
changes.
cool world where the APIs are available, and it's really
amazing.
about the creativity.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's, Clarity, my previous company was Facebook Connect, Twilio, and Stripe.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah,
like
totally.
that's all it took.
You don't
to
have to do
build.
the heavy lifting.
No,
right?
no, all the hard stuff's been thought. So where are you at today in regards to the software, the business, traction, just to give context to.
So we're doing about 100 grand a month in total revenues.
Cool.
About 40K of that is MRR, and we have 180 consulting partners around the globe that license it to their clients.
Yeah.
We had a big breakthrough earlier this year where I was very focused on my own content for a long time.
Yeah.
Turns out other consultants don't care about my content.
No.
But
So
what they
those
wanted,
realization-
they wanted the technology.
Yeah.
Right. So we've stripped it so that they can put their stuff on it, quasi white label, and that's
Okay,
really
so there
helped.
was an iteration where you did sell them the thing that they then use your technology. So and I see this a lot with kind of like thought leader. I call it like traditional SaaS versus thought leader SaaS.
Yeah,
Thought
okay.
leader SaaS essentially is wrapping their thought leadership framework in their software, but then it kind of doesn't allow them to really ask, is there value in the core software as a standalone SaaS?
Right, yeah.
Because you're not sure which thing they bought. Did they buy the training? Did they buy the software? So you pulled away the training, allowed them to put their own content in there, still leveraging your platform. Now, when you say 40K out of 100K, so does that mean that there's a setup fee, or so that's what it is?
Yeah. So it's a licensing and setup, and then they sell.
Cool. And then what's the kind of lifetime value or retention for a customer for you guys?
I have no idea.
Okay.
We're about 18 months into corporate sales.
Yeah.
We see about $100 a year in clean revenue to actionable, profit to actionable per employee.
Yeah.
How many years they will continue to use the platform is sort of an unknown at this point.
Okay, so it's typically the customers that are buying actionable, and they're really probably not even like they're buying it as a byproduct to one of your partners, selling it to them. What size of company on average would be investing with would you guys call them partners? Or?
Yeah, they're partners. Yeah.
So they're investing through one of your partners. What size of companies traditionally? Is it Fortune 2000? Is it 50 to 200 employees? What's the?
No, it's usually more. So they're usually 1,000 employees plus, but they're starting with a smaller
you've
group.
got, just so you know, 3 years wouldn't be an overly optimistic LTV on that.
Okay.
Yeah, if they're going to invest on deploying to that level of employees, are most of them, so it's 1,000 employees, but how many of those employees would actually get actionable?
Well, so they're starting with really small pilots, right?
Yeah,
so
that's
we
usually
start
it's a
with 50, 100
departmental.
people.
And then if they get success, they're going to roll it out. Do you guys offer from a tiered pricing point of view? I know I'm getting super nerdy on the economics, but it helps me understand that we can go wherever you need to. Do you offer site-wide licenses for your partners to sell a 50,000 person organization?
No, and this is one of the things that we've been butting up against. We don't even sell on a per user basis. We sell on a team per instance basis, and it's confusing to the client.
Totally.
Yeah.
And you're probably leaving a lot of money on the table.
I think so. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
I got it, man. I work with a lot of clients that have this kind of model.
Yeah.
So, and I've seen those challenges, so I kind of get context. Where do you want to go? Like, what would make this an incredible conversation for you?
So we're in an interesting transition point. I started this company 9 years ago. It's gone through a lot of iterations.
Yeah. Was that 9 years with the books?
Yeah, 9 years
okay,
with the books.
cool.
2008,
Yeah.
that's when we started that.
Yeah. So that's super neat.
Yeah, so it's been fun, and it's my life. Like, I'm fully in it.
And do you have a tattoo? Actionable?
Yeah, but I'm not going to show it to you.
Okay, cool. All right, that's dedication. Commitment with a capital C.
We change our logo too often.
No, that's why you just go with a nice font. Call it a day.
So we have always outsourced our dev. Always. I started the company with $2,500, and so everything was that. And we're in this transition point now where we want to start building our own internal team. And so I've been, actually through you, indirectly, I ended up connecting with Chad at Osler.
Yes.
The
lawyer.
Yeah,
Chad.
the lawyer. And then he's connected me with almost every VC in Canada.
Cool.
Which has been great. So we're going through that conversation. But it's a fascinating place where, I think it's fascinating. We've got a number of firms that, there's the ones that say,
Chad's
call me
a good
later.
Dude,
He's
just PS.
well connected.
Yeah, I really like him.
Yeah. And he hustles, man. Like, I get emails from him at 2 a.m. all the time.
That's, it's funny how I test vendors often. It's just like a side note. And one of my tests is a weekend email.
Oh, yeah?
And they don't know it. But yeah, for sure. I mean, and look, I don't expect everybody to work on weekends. Sometimes I do. You know what I mean? Because especially for certain people like accountants, lawyers, immigration people, you kind of need some responsivity there.
Yeah, well, that's when the shit hits the fan, is outside of work hours.
So that's super cool. So it helped you kind of network into the investor space.
Yeah.
So
we're too early for some, we're too late for others.
Yeah, and so one of the things you're saying is transitioning to an in-house dev team. Is that one of the constraints or one of the challenges that they're coming up with?
It is, and it's this chicken egg thing, because in my mind, I need the cash to properly finance a good dev team, right?
Yeah, so my analogy to outsource, in the early days, I'm a big fan of outsourcing innovation too. If you said I think I've got this interesting growth channel, but my team's kind of strapped with product. How do I do it? I would say outsource it. Literally go on Upwork, find some programmer in Eastern Europe, and say hey, here's this crazy idea. Go pull these APIs together and show me what the data looks like. I do that today. I've done it.
But it's starting from a core of your core product is internal.
So I've always eventually brought it in-house, but I'm okay starting with outsource.
Okay.
But I'm talking okay for 6 months.
Right. Not 9 years?
Not 9 years. Nope. No. And really it's the analogy is you could start a restaurant by hiring a part-time chef and teaching you how to cook, and you could be in the following a recipe.
Yeah.
But at a certain point for a restaurant truly to build escape velocity, especially if you want to compete in such a competitive space, you need a world-class chef as a business partner. You can still be the business side, the marketing mind, et cetera, kind of the vision for the restaurant, but you need that chef in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the same relationship I see. There's no software companies at scale.
No.
But the good news is there's a ton of companies that I coach that do 12, 15 million a year that are non-technical that started in the same scenario. So so there's good precedence for that.
Yeah.
I think the migration plan, if that's the question, is that kind of how do I migrate? I know I need the money to do this. But
yeah, and it's also, not knowing what I'm looking for, where to go, I guess, in regards to finding. And am I still calling it a technical co-founder, even though we're 9 years in?
Yeah. So my rule on the founding side is I call it founding team member. And what I've always said about that is, in the early days, especially if you're high growth, Clarity was the same scenario for me where I went literally from an idea to revenue pretty fast, that I couldn't slow down to bring in a technical co-founder. And I tried, and I wanted to, but the truth was the people I was reaching out to were, either between startups that they just sold to Facebook or to Salesforce. You want to build the best team, and just trying to coordinate. One guy sold his company to Google, and he's still there, and Facebook, whatever they're paying him is not enough because he is one of the smartest people in the world. And and I'm a big fan of ask for advice and slowly work together. And I was trying to go through this process, and then then all of a sudden the VCs were coming in, and I was how do I slow that down? So then I was well, I'll raise the money, but I won't announce it, because certain people want to be part of the founding idea.
Right.
So those would be what I call co-founders. Now, what I like to use is the founding team member, because I believe that there's certain people that are super critical to the realization of your dream, and that would probably be more to where you're at, where it's I've done really well so far. We're essentially a $1 million ARR type of business, and we want to now kind of build professional management around our technology stack, and I need a founding team member to do that, and I'm willing to be long-term generous. I think that's the big part is too often if you're going to build a venture-backed business, like what's unique about that versus bootstrap is you actually have an ability to incentivize people.
Yeah.
In a meaningful way,
Yeah.
right? Like I hear people all the time, it's like, I want to do profit sharing in my company. It's like, no, you don't. You just want to essentially do bonus structures that's tied to their output.
Right.
You essentially want to turn everybody into a salesperson because you're just not feeling like they're self-motivated enough. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's not profit sharing. Profit sharing means let them keep getting paid what they're doing today and pay them that salary. And at the end of the year, look at your profit and write them a check from that.
Right.
Most of them don't want to do that. So anyways, but I love the idea of venture-backed startups because you're actually giving some equity at a discount in the future will be worth more, especially if you start down the fundraising path, because as a byproduct of raising capital, they're setting the new valuation, which argument, like every time you raise more money, there's a higher valuation. The investor, the employee stock options should be worth more. So I think are you willing to be somewhat like open to giving equity to?
Yeah.
So like,
I'm happy to. Appreciating there's a massive range within that for a founding member versus a co-founder.
I'll just tell you what I did with Clarity. I mean, even because I ended up raising 1.6 million,
right.
And I found a person that was kind of further, like they came after the fact of raising the capital.
Yeah.
And I kind of decided I'm willing to give up to 10%, 10 to 15%. Like at the end of the day, for the right person to lead my engineering team. Yeah. And here's what I mean by lead. When they get hired, they can bring 5 other incredible people.
Right.
That's rule number 1.
Right.
So if you just hire a really great technical person that doesn't have a bench, that's why you want to find people who have been in the industry for like 15 to 20 years that have built teams, that their teams are just looking for an opportunity of saying, what if we started from scratch again? How cool would that be? Because that's what you're saying. It's like, look, come in and rebuild the platform. Right? Take what we've got, build the, whatever you got to do. But take your Navy SEALs team that you've cultivated over the years, that you guys message every Saturday night about like what cool framework they're geeking out on, because that's hopefully what they're doing, and come create magic in my company. And I think those people exist. And I think most of them, it's funny, like IBM's locked up a lot of them, but I still think they're at the point, like I have friends that still work at BlackBerry RIM, you know what I mean? Like they're still there and they're just on another level of brilliance. And I feel like just somebody needs to just have that conversation with them. So I would say, I would be open, you guys are well along, you've got product market fit-ish, you've got a proven track record as an entrepreneur. If they want to come in and be part of an exciting team and you're willing to, pay them not market wage, like they're not going to make what they're making today, but 70% less than that plus 10 to 15% equity, vested over 4 years, you definitely want to do vesting on it. Then that's not crazy. Like I'm a big fan of being long-term greedy. Like if I'm bringing in venture partners and they're going to throw in $5 million, $10 million and take 25, 30% of my company, then I should be willing, because that capital and the output of what I can do with that and the right hire should be like relationally accurate. Like if I give up 10% to an engineer that's going to bring in other great guys and they're going to build this stack that's going to allow me not to have to worry about infrastructure and product releases and features and just totally creating an incredible product, because you're probably more of a salesperson, marketing, like that I can now go sell and know that no matter what I sell, you can deliver on. That's the Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak relationship. Right. And I think that is, like, I had those people in my companies, and that was, I remember.
What are they doing now? Are they available?
No, they're all, so the cool thing about my background is every one of them started their own company.
That's amazing.
That was my commitment. Come work with me. I will not only work with you to create a lot of wealth in your life, but I will also teach you how to think about entrepreneurship.
Love that.
Yeah, that's probably the thing I'm most proud of is from my company Spheric to Flowtown to Clarity. Most of my team have gone on, and probably the sourcing I use. Like I definitely pulled people that had that entrepreneurial bent. So you got to be a little crazy to come join a startup. Yeah, but I think that's what they want. And I always told people, especially maybe not my core founding team people, but other hires is, come dedicate at least 3 years of your life to this mission. And if you do that, I will do everything in my power to make sure that you achieve your dreams in life. Yeah. And I do that today.
And where were you sourcing them from? Because do you have a developer background?
Yeah,
yourself?
I started coding when I was 17.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. But even without that, I source off GitHub.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Back in the day, you used to be able to get, I don't think you can anymore, you used to get the email. I actually built this whole growth hacking scraper.
Of course you did.
Yeah, of course. I was like, and I outsourced it to Upwork. Back then it was Elance. And so you could get all the emails, and you can get, it was really cool because you can get their code commitments over, you can actually get, there was a way for you to quantify or qualify how good of a programmer they were. And then in a geography, so then there was arbitrage on hiring from, I remember one guy like St. Louis.
Right.
It's like, what are your salary expectations? 45K a year. Awesome. He was easily worth 150.
Right.
We're going to pay all your relocation expenses, move you to San Francisco, and pay you 60. So there's some really cool opportunities like that. But I always say go to where they hang out. And I know where they hang out. I know where they hang out in this city, and I know where they hang out in every city. Is they go to the user groups, they go to the technical events. And what they don't want is some business guy showing up saying, glad handing and like, here's my business card, I need to hire. What they want is somebody to be passionate about their product, to show them that they actually have traction, and that for the right person, there's an incredible opportunity. Yeah. And build that pipeline of potential hires. And the truth is you might have to talk to a lot of people to find one or two really high quality candidates and actually work on them with something. I'm a big fan of, I can't work with you till I work with you. So one of my rules is I always map out like a 10-hour project. So for a technical person, one of my go-tos for a long time was use the Facebook API, analyze this Facebook group, and then tell me which members in that group are the most engaged.
Interesting. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The API was there. I mean, you need to know a little bit about APIs, but today, if I was thinking of like a fun technical project, I would probably say, I would probably go to Bitcoin, right? Here's what I would probably do. Recently, the price dropped by like 30-40%. I would have them analyze who lost the most money in the short amount of time. Right? By looking at the transaction size, because it's all public, and when the price dropped, so who executed the $500,000 purchase the 30 seconds before the price dropped.
Right.
And because then there was no liquidity, and they're like, oh shit, I'm in this transaction, I can't get out of it. So I don't know, like, and because why? It has nothing to do with my business.
So that's the whole point. Do something that's not with your
business. It has to be not, because then there's the argument of like, how much should I pay them for that test project? And my whole thing is, hey, this is an opportunity for us to learn how we work together. Most people do it as just a way to kind of, and we'll work together. Like, I'll help you with interface stuff, I'll give you feedback. Because like, that's what you want to test in those relationships is, how do you communicate? Like, unfortunately, a lot of people have bad habits where you ask them to do something, they go away for 10 hours and they show up and they go, ta-da. And you're like, ta-da, that sucks. And ta-da, that actually is not what we talked about, and I don't know where you took this conversation and went left. So that, unfortunately, but hey, wouldn't you want to know that before you hire them?
Absolutely.
Because that's a habit. Like that's usually something ingrained. If you came from the management consulting or enterprise kind of consulting space, there's people from that industry, like, so let's say like technical sales engineers, they have a different level of approaching teams because they understand like there's a check-in, there's a, hey, this is what I heard you say, let me know if I'm on the right track. Not like getting confirmation at every step, but like just knowing like at certain points there's amount of effort that's going to be invested in getting to that next stage, and I'd rather make sure that we're on the same page than just go off, code it, and have to rework it.
Yeah, of course.
So like I would say I always test for communication, I always test for code quality, like how, when they give it back and they're always like, well, what do you want it to look like? I'm saying do what you think is appropriate. Right? I give zero guidance, because truthfully that's probably most accurate to how it's going to be working together. As you probably know.
As a non-coder,
as a non-coder, I don't know. You're going to want it. I don't know. I'm going to trust that you're going to make the best. Now, what you want to do on the back end, though, is have an advisory board to do the code reviews.
There's a couple people,
so that's what I always did. It's like if I was hiring somebody in machine learning right now or AI, I know enough to confuse people in a conversation. I actually don't know enough to know about quality. So I would just reach out to some of my friends and be like, hey, and I would just say like, hey, put your code up on a GitHub, send me a private URL, and I'll have them do a code review.
That's perfect.
So that's a really good way. And then, but you do want to test out the expectations up front. So like, I'm a big fan of asking people like, hey, I know we're just starting this conversation, but if we were to move forward, what would your compensation expectations be? And if they throw back a $250 a year with 20% equity, you can just say, unfortunately, we're living on two different planets, and it's totally cool. And I hope somebody gives it to you, because that would be fun. It's just not going to happen here. And sometimes they'll backpedal, but honestly, if they backpedal or if they threw that out there, I would question what logic brought them to that answer.
Yeah.
And that would be super red flag concerning.
It's a balancing
for me.
act too, right? Because you don't want people that are deeply undervaluing themselves, or do you?
I do and I don't. I think that I want people to self-educate themselves.
Yeah, right.
Like that answer is so out of whack
Yeah.
that I would be concerned that the way they learn to get to that answer wouldn't allow them to have the critical thinking skills that hopefully they would have to get to their own answer on big, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Like on bigger issues and challenges in their work that
Yeah.
they're gonna have to do.
Yeah.
Like, hey, should we migrate to Node.js? Like these really technical,
Yeah.
nerdy things, they're gonna have to go and discover how to do that.
Right.
So that's why it's concerning to me. Again, I've hired 500 plus people in my career, so it's
Right.
kind of like I've seen patterns.
Particularly with this role, right? Because if it's anything else in the business, I can have some sort of input on it. But aside from, that looks good versus doesn't look good, I don't
I mean,
have a lot.
this, I had to do in the early days, like as a software background, like when I started hiring my first marketing people, like
Right.
I didn't even know, like, how do you hold marketing accountable?
Right.
Like now I could lay down the whole, like funnel and metrics, but like, it's no different than software. It's like, how would you keep a CTO accountable?
Yeah. I
Don't know.
No.
I can tell you. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
So it's like for every role you're going to hire, there's best practices, there's patterns, there's expectations that you would want to understand so that you could manage them.
Yeah.
But the fun part, what I've discovered, especially, I've read same number, like a lot of business books. I've talked, I did over probably at 2,000 advice kind of coaching calls now
Right,
with
yeah, of
entrepreneurs
course.
with
Yeah.
Clarity at 1,300 just on that platform. Is I've started to see patterns in how to assess for talent. Like I have friends that run manufacturing businesses. I've never but yet when I ask them like you help with the training and the implementation
Yeah,
side, like
yeah.
there's best practices,
Sure,
right?
yeah.
So it's kind of neat how at a high level you can kind of pattern match and create these models and then just apply them to different things. So there's probably ways that you hire and test people that apply to software that you just don't think they apply, but they absolutely apply,
Yeah.
right? So
Because the human dynamics piece is the same. Like they need to be the team player, sort of quintessential team player. They need to
100%.
be able to communicate effectively. They need to be able to check in, take personal ownership. All those things apply to human beings that I want to work with, regardless of what they're doing.
But then they also, ideally, they can write code because
Yeah.
you don't want them to just sit there and direct. Like that, I would be concerned if they're like, I'm an architect. It's like, you're a shitty programmer. Like that's it, like.
Is that what that code means?
I think so. Yeah, I'm gonna go there with that one. I just have because like, it's people that don't want to roll their sleeves up.
Right.
That's like saying like,
Yeah, we're not
I'm a
worth it.
marketing my big pet peeve right now is the social media experts that are strategists
Right.
that have never driven real demand or marketing or anything. That to me is like literally I was trying to hire somebody to like run social marketing for me, and I interviewed a bunch of people and they're like, yeah, I'm really more of a strategist. And I'm like, what have you done in the past? They're like, nothing. Like there was nothing interesting or great, yet somehow they wanted to skip the implementation side and just go to strategy. So,
Right.
bit of a pet peeve in my life
Strategist
right
has become
now.
a slightly more socially acceptable guru.
I think it is, and it also it allows them to not be accountable for outcome.
Right, yeah.
Like I'm just going to draw you a map, and you're going to pay me a lot of money for that, but then you got to go do it, and you'll probably do it wrong. So I'm not accountable for you not getting the outcome you want. Whereas I'm a big fan of technical talent. If we bring this back to the challenges. Having somebody that's built platforms that understand like these are the hard pieces that I'm going to work on, and maybe that's 20-30% of their time, and the rest of it's built on developing their team.
Nice.
But for somebody to just come in and say I don't want to code anymore, that would be a huge red flag for me.
Yeah, and it doesn't fit for sort of.
It's like hiring a marketing manager that says I don't want to write copy.
Right.
It's like, well, is it because you suck? Like, you know what I mean? Like, how do you not write copy? It's like, I don't know. I write email, it's copy. Like, I don't know. It's like, you can't like, how do I post something on Instagram and not think about copy? It's just a weird dynamic. I think the same thing especially for somebody that you want to lead your technical team.
Yeah.
Like, I know CEOs of technical companies that still write code. I think Zuckerberg still writes.
And they gotta love it, right?
Yeah.
Zuckerberg's actually where I was going.
Yeah.
Like he craves it, wants to do it.
Yeah, like why
right?
would you get rid of something that you love? What you want to do is build a team around you that's going to free up your time so you can do that thing, especially if you're like, genius level at it. And the truth is on the technical side, people that are that great are definitely 10x better than their counterparts. Like greatness on a technical side is 10 times productivity. And the reason why, and this is the most beautiful thing, so like I'm a bit of a software nerd, not that I'm a great programmer, I'm not, and I know that and I'm okay with it. Luckily I know how to hire and retain those people, is because there's something about the way their mind works where they know when to invest in building tools to help them be more efficient. Like it's actually a beautiful thing, and I would love at some point to sit down with some of the top engineering minds and record their screen and narrate what I'm seeing as somebody that knows enough to see it.
Right.
It's beautiful. It's like, I remember one time this guy built a machine learning, essentially it was a OCR, character recognition. So takes an image, I don't know if you've ever seen this, on your iPhone, you put it in front of a sign, the sign's in Spanish, and it translates to English. His name was Otavio, built Quest Visual, sold it to Google, he's a friend of mine.
Okay.
And when I first saw it, I thought, okay, buddy, I'm not an idiot, I actually know code, show me the code. And he pulled up the C++, which is a super nerdy technical.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh shit, this is for real. I thought for sure it was like a gimmick. Like he like pre-recorded it and it's not real and it won't work if you change the font. It was like super, spaghetti code. Like I was like, this is not real. And as soon as he showed it to me, I said, well, show me how you developed it. And then he showed me he built a separate tool. Like there was the code for the Quest Visual, and then there was a code to debug the system. Because what it did is it actually ran his algorithms in real time through different, he had like one pane that was for the changing the text, to figure out what was text.
Yeah, right,
So
okay.
he had that part, and it had like a number of like how accurate it was. And then he had another pane that was like removing all the text that it found and creating a blank slate. That's 10x development where they actually count, this is crazy, they count the amount of times they touch their mouse.
Okay.
Because if you touch your mouse, you're being inefficient. If you want to see an incredible programmer, watch them work. Their screens change and their fingers don't leave. Some of them program in this thing called Vim, that's super nerdy. And if they're in Vim, this guy, like, maybe more modern, Again, 10x.
Yeah.
10x. Chris, hopefully that was helpful.
That's hugely helpful, man. I really
Awesome,
appreciate
man.
it.
Appreciate you making the trip.
Thank you. I find that Dan has not only such a broad knowledge base and skill set, but he's incredibly well connected as well, and he has a passion for all the things that he's engaged in. So he goes ridiculously deep on whatever you want to get into. So for me, it's the combination of passion, breadth, and depth that just makes him a pleasure to speak with. I think I came in with random thoughts about a couple different areas to go into. The technical hire was sort of buried there somewhere, but being able to dig deep into that I think is hugely useful. Getting clarity around what to look for, the whole 10x thing, and just thinking about that in any other sphere isn't really a thing. They're incrementally better, but understanding that exists in the world of code is really useful and practical. Get clear on the specific advice you want, because inevitably Dan could talk for 45 minutes about one topic in depth and it'll all be great, but don't come thinking you're going to cover a bunch of things, because he's going to take you deep on one specific piece.